Don't forget that this tutorial is part of a series of tutorials which you can access on our YouTube playlist, or alternatively, if you would like to, you can purchase the whole course on Udemy. There should be a link to the YouTube playlist and a link to our Udemy course, which should always provide the best price in the video description. For the purpose of simplicity to introduce many-to-many relationships, we created a many-to-many relationship between the product line and the attribute table and the product type table. Now, if you saw the initial design, you probably already know that these two tables, the product line and the attribute table, wasn't connected together. There was an additional table. So I just want to put that in place before moving forward and talk about creating custom many-to-many relationships. To reflect the final design, the table that we're going to need to add is the attribute value table. So there is a table between the product line and the attribute. The reason why that is, when we create attributes, there's no way for us to actually define a value. Well, there is. We could do that in the attribute table, but we'll be duplicating a lot of data. So again, through the design process, through normalization, we created an attribute value table, which would store values associated to attributes. So we have an attribute table, color, weight, size, etc. Then we have an attribute value table, which is going to store, for example, the attribute, color, and then the value, red, blue, green, etc. And then that's going to be then associated to the product line table. That's going to have a many-to-many relationship between it. And then there's going to be a one-to-many. So one attribute will have many values, whereas one value might only be associated to one attribute. So those are the relationships that we're going to need to quickly build, so to steer our design towards the end result. So there's just one table to create here. Moving back to our design process thus far, let's look for the product line table. So it's the product line. At the moment, we have a many-to-many to the attribute table. So we want to change that to attribute value. So we'll just change that to attribute value. The related name we change to attribute value. And then the table, which we'll build in a second, will be attribute value. So we'll put that above. So class attribute value, models.model. Hopefully this is just giving you some additional practice. So inside of this table, as you can see, there is an attribute value in a design, and that's going to equal models dot, that's going to be a character field. So the attribute value, let's set that max length to around about, let's say 100. And then in addition to that, there is a foreign key over to the attribute table. So we add that in. So this attribute equals models dot foreign key. So we need to define the model, which is the attribute table, which is above. And then we set the on delete. So this is an interesting one. So if we delete the attribute, there's going to be no need for the attribute values, but there could be multiple of them. So on delete equals, let's set this to models dot, let's go for cascade for now. That of course means if we delete the attribute, all the attribute values will also be removed. So just to confirm the changes, in the product line, we've added a many-to-many relationship to the attribute value now table. So we've changed that. We've now associated that to the attribute value table. And then the attribute value table has a foreign key over to the attribute table. Hopefully you've managed to follow so far to this point. You may still have questions about the design process, which I apologize for not going into massive amounts of detail. That would have been another couple of hours before we got to actually building. And this course is meant to be focused on actually utilizing Django ORM to actually build a database rather than the actual design process. So next up, we're going to take a look at building our own link tables as I've described them. So like I said, Django generates the tables whenever we define a many-to-many relationship. So we can go ahead and actually override that setting and generate our own many-to-many tables.